Let's go. Welcome to the main event. Applying pressure, but I promise I ain't make it then. In their heads, living free, I ain't paying rent. Wake up in the AM, making G's like Mercedes-Benz. Whoa, yeah, please don't take offense.
Hello, everybody. We're back. It is season 1, episode 10 of Cockriser, the show. I'm Jamie Jones.
I'm Monique Jones.
And today, for the first time in the history of the Cockriser, the show, we have a special guest. Hopefully, be not the first time she'll be on, first time of many. Troy Lee Jones, sister of Jamie Jones and sister-in-law of Monique Jones. Troy, welcome.
I'm the first guest.
You are the inaugural
guest.
The inaugural guest.
I am honored.
Well, you should be. You should be. So, for our listeners, and you know this, we've been over this, you come to the table, whatever topics. I don't know what Troy's going to talk about. Heck, I don't even know what Monique's going to talk about. And I don't even know what I'm going to talk about other than the things I have to bring to the table. I know the first topic I'm going to talk about. I want to thank a listener from 2 weeks ago who reached out to us and really, he corrected. He actually educated. And I don't know if everybody knows this, that you think they do, but we throw around the word democracy a lot. And what the United States really is a constitutional federal republic or a representative democracy, meaning a republic refers to the structure of the government, a state without a monarch, a state where the people's power is exercised through the elected representatives. A representative democracy refers to the mechanism by which the people exercise the power through voting with constitutional limitations. And that's why we have the three parts of, justice, the Congress, and the president. If it was a true democracy, which I don't believe we want, and I'm glad that the founding fathers set it up this way, it's a government that derives power from the people through practice of popular sovereignty with the expansion of voting rights over time, making the system more democratic, meaning it just goes and flows with the democracy versus how it's set up constitutionally to keep fairness. So thank you to that listener for bringing that attention. And that's a very important point, but really that is very voluminous today, in this day, because the Republicans, and it was interesting watching Bill Maher yesterday, and he said it quite frankly, trying to say, hey, this is what we need to do to get together on both sides. But he basically said the difference between Democrats and Republicans, Democrats do the same shit, but they'll do it a little bit. And then Republicans go, oh, we're going to go 1,000 on this and do the same things, but just do it at such a high degree of venom that it's coming out the way it's coming out right now. And quite frankly, here's what I really believe. And Troy, I want to get your thoughts on this. Here's what I really believe. I believe if Trump was in bed with the Democrats back in 2016, he would be on the left side. But it was the right side that was going to put him in power. So he went with them, and then he just took over. And now they don't know what to do with it.
Well, I think that's kind of interesting, but this kind of edges on to the psychology of Donald Trump. And it sounds like maybe in his early life, he wasn't included in a lot. He didn't have have high self-esteem. I think he still doesn't. And he's allegedly a narcissistic personality. So if you don't do the things that he wants you to do, then he'll use that against you and go way on the opposite side. So I think that's why, he may have, because he used to be pretty good friends with the Clintons. I don't know what his relationship was with the Obamas or anything like that, but I would say it's probably non-existent. But he did used to hang out with the Clintons, and was progressive leaning, it seemed, for a period of time.
He was hanging with him on the island.
Jamie, I literally was going to say, okay, was that with Epstein? Was
were they hanging out on
his
the
wife
island?
there?
Allegedly.
Like, what was going on?
Allegedly.
I don't know about that, but my suspicion is when he was younger, he was probably more progressive leaning than he is now. The Democrats didn't do or include him or bow down to his demands. So he found the Republicans, and the Republicans attached their agenda to him and he's popular. People think he's a businessman, a genius businessman. He had the Apprentice show that really put him out there in the public eye for a long time. And so people have this greater than, we the public likes celebrities. That's why Ronald Reagan was became the first actor president, because people like that glitz and glamour and that image of America, whether it's real or not. So I think that's why the Republicans said, okay, we're going to use this guy to get our agenda through. And they didn't have anybody that was that charismatic as Reagan for a long time until Trump. Even though he's not for the people, he arguably he knows how to work the media and he's charismatic, and that's probably the most successful candidate they've had in a long time. So that's why they're able to look the other way, because behind the scenes they're working out their agenda, which is allegedly Project 2025.
So I want to bring up Oregon State. He's sending the troops to Oregon because of a post on social media that was posted in 2020 about protesters and things like that. So right now there was two protesters that were out there, and they're trying to let him know that we don't need troops. We're not having any issues with the public. It was a man dressed up in a chicken suit and another guy that was draped with the American flag. And he is still persistent that he is going to send the troops into Oregon. And I'm like, okay, why? What again? So it's like we have those things that it's all these distractions that he knows how to put out there for people to get distracted and from what he's actually doing. And I was reading this morning and I was just like, okay, so why are they sending the troops? Why are they paying the taxpayers to send the troops out there when there's no need to have the taxpayers out? I mean, the troops out there to, calm something down that's not even relevant.
Well, I'm a proud Chicago resident, and we just went through that ourselves recently, within the past month, with the threats of sending the National Guard in, and well, ICE has been very active, but not. They were active in the beginning of the year in the city, but now they seem to be in the suburbs. But they also floated a boat down the Chicago River yesterday, or the past couple of days.
They actually swam in the Chicago River this past
Yeah,
week too, for the first time.
yeah.
I don't know how long.
Who
It
swam?
was,
I
it was,
didn't read that.
because Chicago River was supposed to be toxic, and we find out that now it's not.
Yeah,
Oh,
They went swimming.
it's been cleaned up, so they
okay.
had a launch of sorts. But in any case, Governor Pritzker and our Mayor Johnson stood up to the administration and kind of indicated that we didn't need that support. We indicated what kind of support we did need, and thought better of the situation of sending the National Guard here. So we did kind of dodge that situation.
Now, is it Paris, Chicago's sister city? I should know this. 'Cause I lived there for 8 years. Is it Paris, Chicago's sister city?
We have a lot of sister cities. I'm not sure about Paris, but I know Toronto is.
Well, and I said that because Paris had their issues with their river for the Olympics, and they had to clean it up, and they were like, "Yeah, it's really too clean."
That was nasty. But the Riverwalk, that's
They
become
are.
very
They are
popular.
sister cities, by the way. They
Oh,
are. They've
Are
been
they?
sister cities. They've been sister cities since 1996. 1996, everybody.
I did not know.
Okay.
19,
I did not know
1996.
that either.
Well, I would say
What's
that
up?
arguably, if you've ever walked along the Riverwalk, down by the water, because it's got stages, it does look like where staging around the Seine River, where you can
Hmm.
walk along and go up the stairs and stuff like that. So
And guess whose hotel is right along the Chicago River?
it's doing very, very well, actually.
The Trump Hotel is right along. It's a beautiful hotel. It's
It's
one
a
of my
gorgeous
favorite hotels.
hotel.
in Chicago.
Great
If anybody's
place.
wondering what I'm sipping James Cole, one of my favorite wineries. I'm not pubbing them, and we don't get paid for this,
Great
but it's
location.
daggone good.
Great location. Only the best.
So, but see, here's the thing about Trump, what I don't think people really understand. He cares about winning. He wants
Himself,
to be seen as
but
a
okay.
winner. So look,
He
no,
wants
he
to be
talks
seen
about,
as
hey,
a what?
I solved all these wars and even these pre-wars. But even go back, so yeah, he did get more in today's generation of in the public eye um because of the TV show, The
Yeah.
Apprentice. But if you remember back in the 80s when was a USFL football owner and he took on the NFL, nobody wanted him to. He actually won. They were asking for $1.7 billion. He actually won the antitrust suit. They said it was worth $3. He got $3. But what happened is he torched the USFL. They were done. They could not compete with the NFL, and they were literally done from that moment. So, and there are still owners from back in the day and players that blame him for basically serving his own purpose, which he truly did. And he won, but then at what cost? And that kind of comes up today. Like, you may win, but at what cost are you going, to win? I mean, it's just like it was embarrassing to me what happened at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. And again, what happened to Charlie Kirk was deplorable. It was abhorrent. The assassinator, and I don't mention his name on these things because that's what they like to get famous. It's categorically wrong. But how he acted more like it was a pep rally for his political
Exactly.
motives was shameful versus his wife, who was unbelievably forgiving.
But that's because that's
situation.
who he is. He's selfish. He only thinks
all of
about
this is
himself.
for him. All of this is for him.
Yes. Yeah.
But most of them
Let's
got it one
rally.
that
Let's
were
do this for
unfortunate.
somebody else, but
Most of
all
them got
intent is for me.
And that brings up the Jimmy Kimmel thing. That does bring up the Jimmy Kimmel thing. Like, the Jimmy Kimmel thing was wrong on so many levels, but I say on so many levels because it was wrong on both sides. And I'll say, well, of course it was wrong. Free speech. Nobody should be taken on. What are you going to do? You're going to cancel Dave Chappelle too? If anybody should be canceled, you would think Dave would be with the things he said. But you can't cancel comedians. But I felt like what Jimmy's problem was when he came back. I think he gave an eloquent monologue, but he forgot one thing. He didn't need to apologize for what he said, but he did need to set the record straight on he was wrong about where he said the affinity was of the assassinator. He said that I think he made mention that it was somebody who was on the right, and it was not. We didn't even know at that time where that assassinator, where he leaned either way. And what he should have done is said what he was right about and what he was wrong about.
It doesn't matter. Just like it didn't matter when the Republicans came out and said it was a leftist trans person either. I think we have to, I mean, it was definitely a tragic situation, shocking in this day and time that these things are still going on. And simultaneously, that same day, kids were shot in a school. And before that, we had political leaders in Minnesota that were shot in their homes.
And then we had the ICE thing, like last week, when somebody just randomly was shooting at an ICE center in Texas and didn't even shoot the people he was trying to shoot, and then kill himself, which is the coward way out.
Yeah. We have to do something about gun safety in this country. I'm still not over Sandy Hook.
Me either.
Do not understand how we accept that kids go to school and are not safe every single day.
Well, let me tell you this story since you brought it up. A week ago,
so true.
A Michigan student, 11 years old.
Oh my God, I read this.
Was expelled after taking a gun away from a classmate to prevent unimaginable tragedy. They suspend the kid's still not in school. The school board said they will relook at the situation at the end of the year. Now, the 11-year-old did not want to tell on the kid that he took the gun from.
Yeah.
And the fact that the 11-year-old knew how to disarm the other child with the gun, to me, to this day, if you talk about education, that was what you want education to be able to do,
Yes.
to disarm a situation and provide safety to students. And he's the one who gets in trouble for it.
And he should be a hero. He should have a badge of honor. Because
unless they're questioning the validity,
kids, no,
unless they're questioning it.
What happens is that he's like, let me do the right thing. I do the right thing, and now I'm punished. So now, how does he comprehend exactly what is? He's 11. So how does he comprehend exactly? I thought I was doing the right thing, so now I'm being punished. That's not right.
This is interesting because Jamie, that same, I think it's the same Bill Maher show that Ben Shapiro was on, and he brought up the example of the guy who saved.
That was 2 shows ago. Right?
Brought up the example of the subway person in New York who who detained the homeless person, and he unfortunately passed away, and then was punished for potentially saving people around him. So I don't know. I don't know how we handle a lot of these things. I just know that I am very uncomfortable with kids even having to defend against their classmate in school around a gun. There's something we are not okay if we are accepting a culture where kids have to contend with firearms in school. This was it was unconscionable to even think about when we were in school. I don't understand where we're going when we accept this as a culture and a nation. I don't understand it.
And to me, it seems like that the school doesn't believe that he wasn't the one that brought the gun to school, because all you would have to do is do an investigation and know he's not telling you. And there's a reason why he's not telling you. And why is he scared to tell in the first place? It's kind of like what you just mentioned. It's like you do the right thing, and you think you're going to get into trouble. And it's remarkable. And I mean, I don't know. To me, it's not a race thing, but the young man, the 11-year-old, is an African American. And I'm thinking you would want that as an example of a child that diffuses the situation. It could have been something that could have been heinous and remarkably unfortunate. So it's that these decisions, is like, where are our school officials in these decisions?
I beg to differ. I saw something on Instagram this morning, TikTok, about the woman who stole from Target $3,000 and how she was treated. I don't know if you've seen that.
I didn't see that.
No, I didn't see that.
White suburban mom, and they were basically negotiating with her. She stole $3,000.
Nice. Do you want the underwear or do you want the pajamas? Because you can't have both.
Talking to her like, hey, you stole this. Do you want to call somebody? We're going to have to take you in. And she's like, oh, well, I'm sorry. I don't know. What should I do? Kind of thing. And, I've never had this happen before. Is it okay?
So I never got caught. So I never got caught.
Okay for me to call my husband? Or, we're gonna have to take you out front. We're gonna have to put handcuffs on you. She's like, oh, well, I won't run away. Can I not be cuffed? Can be taken to the car? You need to see it. It's really interesting. You just know.
Hold up, Troy. Did they cuff her?
No, apparently. Because she promised she wouldn't run away.
That's some bullshit.
I just know it would be a different situation.
Of course it would be.
Let's just say it would.
Well, we see those all the time on Instagram. Remember, unfortunately, back when not years ago, but 4 or 5 years ago, when all the police brutality stuff was coming to a head, and they were showing videos online of Caucasians being pulled over and literally running away from the police, fighting the police. And police were like, come on. And they were trying to like pushing the police away and running away. They didn't even take out their tasers, let alone their guns.
Yeah.
So there definitely is a bias, right?
Absolutely.
It's no different than the bias. If I walk up and see a brother, I'm giving him the soul shaking. If I see a white guy, I'm holding out my hand and
Absolutely.
putting his out and shit. It's just
Yeah.
right. There's a certain bias,
Or
even though that's not gonna cost you your life. It's
But
just
hold
like there's
up.
a cultural bias.
So
I'm
yes,
not
but the
saying it's
thing is
right.
that I have the same thing though.
mm,
I'm
You
white and I have the same thing for
are you
for
are you white? I didn't know. I didn't know.
but
I didn't know.
hold up, just hear me out. I have the same thing. I'm like, when I see a young black woman or a young black man or just whatever, our age or whatever, it's definitely a bias of like it's just different for me. And I think for me, it comes from a place that I truly know how white people think, right?
mm-hmm.
I've been around it. I grew up around it, and I see how they will just look at this the color of the skin and just automatically treat them totally different. Where for me, I have this empathy, compassion, sympathy, and I'm just like, why the fuck are they treated this way because of the color of their skin? And
Yeah, you're
again, growing up in a home, and I'm gonna be growing up in a home where my grandmother was very, very, very free with her tongue. And to hear the N word and to hear her call Spanish people spics and all these things, I'm just like, wow. Jamie and I were talking, and he said, and I said, I'm so grateful that I didn't turn out that way. And the thing is that I had a mother that was raised in a very very racist environment, and then I had a father that was raised that everyone was treated equal. So I took on what my father had taught me, and
mm-hmm.
that was it doesn't matter the color of the skin. He's a person, and you love them for who they are. So I truly believe that what happens is that it's very hard for me to look at somebody and say, "Oh, because of the color of your skin, you don't deserve an opportunity."
No,
Where the white people will think that, like, you know, you're beneath me because your skin is darker than mine.
your filter is definitely different.
Yeah,
Uh, it's learned behavior.
yeah,
It's
absolutely, absolutely.
Well, we
I
and
know
agree
we
with
don't
you
come out the
100%.
we don't come out the womb like that, just like the brown-eyed and blue-eyed test that they did back in the 60s, right? If you
yeah,
tell somebody that you're bad, they're going to believe that they're bad after a while. So that it's that learned. It's what did you call it? I'm
Absolutely.
sorry. 'Cause
But
it's
but again, I
it's a
was
learned
taught
trait.
both. I understand. So I watched
Well,
both.
and here's the thing: we're all taught both, and let's be real. I mean, it's no different. It's no different on the black side. We are taught our culture, and most
So
black parents will teach you this is what you do when you get stopped by the police. This is
yep,
what you do in
yes,
certain situations. But they also will teach you this is not how you want to treat people because you know how it feels to be treated that way, or they knew how it
yes,
be. And we were
well,
fortunate
yes,
enough to be in parents that were in the civil rights movement. I mean, in the civil rights movement, not like standing by, but literally in the civil rights movement, in the
skin in the game.
Mississippi burning stuff,
Yeah,
in Atlanta, in Alabama. So they saw it from truly the perspective when you see the fire hoses and people being fire hosed up against the wall and the bombings and in Birmingham and all that stuff. So but you're taught because you don't want to be treated like that, not to treat others like that. But that doesn't mean you're not taught to be aware of it and where it comes from and how it feels so you don't treat other people like that. But I think it's important, just like we're talking about it today, civilly and and calmly, we should be able to talk about it with everybody that way, even with those people who don't believe that, who have these views that they feel like either just like the people who build a white only community, and such. And then you need to understand why we have such a visceral reaction to that because they go, oh, we don't care if you go build a black community. We go, well, history tells us that you do because I can start naming lakes in the South that used to be cities, but they're lakes now because they burnt it down and they dug it up and they filled it in with water. And you could go on the bottom of that and find bones of black people in that city. Or we can talk about what happened out in Tulsa back in the 20s or 30s, was it? And burning down a very vibrant all black city, and it was the black Wall Street, and jealousy and enviness, and like you guys can't be doing this good during the Depression because we aren't. So we're just going to tear this down. So we understand that, but yet you guys might not understand it because you're not being taught that in schools, and you don't even know it existed. So our, like you said earlier, Troy, our lens is different, and that's okay.
We grew up in a place where, you know, all of our neighbors were diverse, and you kind of knew when you were moving to that area that that's what that was all about. And so that totally, I can tell you that I still struggle with having understanding of, you know, when people say Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the country. I struggle with that concept because I'm like, what does that what does that look like? Because I see a lot of diversity, but we don't live necessarily in the same neighborhoods like how we grew up.
Yeah, you know, I wanted to bring up something that I am happy about. Well, just the little things in life and that I'm happy about.
Oh, I would love to hear
This,
this.
you know what?
Please share. Please share.
You know what this week is? This week is the Milan Fashion Week. And you may be like, well, Jamie, why are you concerned about the Milan? Because they have New York. I'm excited about the Milan Fashion Week because guess who's there filming?
Bottega.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is there.
Oh, they are. I
And
just
Meryl
saw that. I
Streep
just saw that.
and
That's my
Stanley
movie.
Tucci were at the
I
Fashion
love
Week film, and
Stanley.
I'm like, it's moving ahead. They were in New York. Now they at Milan. You know, it's going to be all that.
I
That
think
is
they
one of the most, if you know, you know. That's one of the most anticipated sequels. I don't care what anybody says. That's one of my favorite movies. Yeah, it's right up there with Boomerang, Black Panther, Dark Knight, Devil Wears Prada. It's right there. I watch it every time it comes on. I'm hoping the
Why is
dude
no
from
ready?
Entourage, who was a boyfriend, I hope he's in it some way, somehow, some shape, maybe a
He's
cameo.
not.
I want to see everybody.
He's not. He's not.
Hey,
But
give us something.
I
What's
love
the
that
young
movie.
lady, the actress?
Emily
I just
Blunt.
saw her. Who?
Emily Blunt. You talking about Emily Blunt, the friend with the friend?
No, there's a
With the
black young lady
malnutritious
who
friend?
is being filmed in this
Oh,
movie.
yeah.
Do you know her name?
No, but she reminded me of Howard Stern's sidekick. Or was it Howard Stern's sidekick?
No.
You know what I'm
No,
talking about.
I can't remember.
Howard
I
Stern.
just read it and I forget her name, but it was showing her. She had like a high slit black um accordion skirt on with some boots and like a shirt, and she was walking through
Robin. I thought that wasn't Robin Quivers. She wasn't in there?
No,
That's who she
Robin.
reminded me of.
Robin is
That's
No.
what she.
Robin, what? No.
Robin Quivers.
close
That's Howard
to
Stern's sidekick.
Howard.
Who was?
I know who you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she
For
did
some,
not.
she
She does not look
reminded
anything
me
like
of
her.
Robin's
Oh,
close
okay.
to Howard's age, if not older.
Robin
Yes, I was going to say this
is-
girl's young.
She was born in 52. Yeah, she's 10 years older than both me and you. Sure, but she's
Yeah,
13 years older
not
than
me. Not me.
Yes, not you. She's 20 years. Yes. We know, dear.
This is true.
You're the
They're
young
young.
spring chicken
They're
on the podcast. Thanks for reminding us. We appreciate
Right.
that.
You're
But
welcome.
that movie is it's just a fun movie to watch. And it's like I watch it every time it comes on.
I quote it practically every day, especially if we're late for a meeting. I go, "Why is no one ready?"
Wasn't right.
I love
You know,
her.
I know that you were talking about a happy note, but
And by the way, the young lady's name is Tracy Toms. Tracy Toms.
Oh yes,
That's
I
who
love
was
her.
the Tracy Toms.
Love her.
that was not the girl's name that I read, but okay.
He was
So
in the
on
movie.
the note of I and again I know that you're trying to go positive with the Devil Wears Prada.
All right,
Wears
bring us
Prada.
back. Bring us back to doom and gloom, Monique. Go ahead.
I mean, I just really want your outlook on Tylenol and autism. So I just want to hear a quote from Barack Obama.
Let's ask Jenny McCarthy.
Barack Obama says this is, let me quote him right. God, I just remembered what he said. This is, I got to read it. Violence against the truth. When he spoke about the Tylenol and saying that that's what causes autism, he's basically said this was violence against the truth. This causes anxiety in women who are carrying and women that have given birth to children that maybe are not of age yet, that get tested for the autism spectrum testing that they get. How did we get to a place where he is saying, and let me make sure who is he? I don't even know.
Junior.
Yes. He said he will find a cure for autism in September of 2025.
Sure.
This fool said it's Tylenol, just to make sure that he said that he accomplished his goal, and his goal was he would find what causes autism.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of things to unpack with this whole thing. You come from many different angles. Somebody who's been in life sciences for a long time prior to. Let's look at from that viewpoint. I'll just give one sentence. It is important to note that while an association between acetaminophen, and Tylenol, basically, and neurological conditions has been described in many studies, a causal relationship has not been established. And there are contrary studies in the scientific literature. That's directly from the FDA. However, part of it is unfortunately on the life science industry's fault because of some of the bad actors. And we talked about that on a couple episodes ago when we were talking about opiates. There have been bad actors that have spawned mistrust. And because it's a capitalist marketplace, everybody's on the lookout if they're being taken advantage of because of the profits that could be made. And people have this idea that drug manufacturers make ridiculously profits. And they make good profit, but they have to because they have to spend a lot of money to make drugs. We talked about that before. So I think part of it is the distrust out there. The other thing is the thing that Trump has done a good job of as he's been in office. He's good at shaking down people. And this is just a classic shakedown. Now, let me say this. The Democrats did the same thing. Obama did the similar thing where he pulled in all the drug manufacturers, CEOs, Merck, Pfizer, you name them. And he shook them down for $180 million in wherever it was going to. They contributed $180 million to whatever whenever the initiative was the Democrats wanted to do. So they always come after the drug companies. I always find it incredible that the drug companies are only anywhere from 16 to 20 cents on the healthcare dollar. When who has 75 to 80% of the healthcare dollar? Your health care insurance. That's the problem with healthcare and the cost. Now let's get back to Tylenol and autism. There is, you can't say the sun comes up and then your neighbor crashed into the garage. Well, because the sun comes up, people are going to crash into the garage. Just because something happens and then there's a cause doesn't mean there's a relationship between the two. And that's the thing here. I think it's a shame about JFK Jr. because I think some of the things he says are very relevant as far as we cause some of our issues on our own because of what we eat and how we eat it. Some of it is the manufacturers who manufacture ultra-processed foods and they're very addicted because what's in them. But you can't take the responsibility out of people for taking care of their own health. But because he comes off sometimes with some cockamamie things and just the weirdness, of killing a bear with his bare hands, there's hyperbole in that. But no, with the brain eating worm that he had in his brain and stuff like that, all these weird stories, it's hard to take him seriously. And I think part of that loses his message. But this is definitely a clusterfuck. And I think the problem I have with Trump is he's not being responsible as a leader in what he's saying.
Oh, well, I'm going to speak on that because there are multiple fronts of which this is an affront to people. First of all, this administration seems to not care about women's health or children's health or anybody's health.
But Troy, I do care about women's health because I'm telling you not to take Tylenol if you're pregnant.
No,
So I don't care if I say that.
Women's health. And then the other cynical view I have is watch the start the stock market around this. Who's benefiting?
Mhm.
Who's getting money from this whole situation? But it is dangerous, and again, it's an assault on women's health, um, uh, prenatal health, uh, and that's really what's very disturbing about this whole thing is that
Yeah.
people don't know what to do. And I've even spoken with mothers who feel like, um, you try to do what's best for yourself and your children, and putting this reliable drug into question is problematic because for many years we've been told that, in the absence of, don't even take aspirin, don't take Advil, but take Tylenol because it's proven to be safe for kids, for pregnant women. You need something to bring the fevers down if you have an infection. People tell you to take Tylenol, it's proven to be safe. So I just, I have a very, I'm disturbed on many different levels around this whole thing. And I think just in general, its administration is taking advantage of keeping people scared and in a place of not knowing where to find the truth. And that is
And
very for us.
you're not the only one. So the president of the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists said this past Monday that suggestions that Tylenol use in pregnancy causes autism are, quote, irresponsible when considering the harmful and confusing message they send to
Yeah.
pregnant
It's
patients.
crazy. Like
So,
Obama said.
Yeah.
and,
It's
and let's just wildly think that let's say in 15 years, this is actually proven true over data. It still was irresponsible to say before it is proven. And I'm not saying it will be proven. I'm not saying that it is proven. I'm not saying that it's not true or is true. We don't know it to be true. So it's alleged. And that's what they need to say. And then you don't need to say anything because you just tanked. I believe the company is called Kenbu, who owns the stock. It's not J&J anymore. That company,
and
Kenbu,
Bill sold it.
they were a subsidiary of, and they sold it off. So they're bouncing back right now. But, they're like, at WTF, where did this come from? Because this literally came out of nowhere. And Troy, I think you're spot on because my question is, did they tell anybody before they were going to make this announcement? Did
Exactly.
people like put some money someplace else? And we know that happens all the time. But interesting. Oh, this doesn't go along with this, but it's interesting because we were talking about this last night. Monique and I was talking about this last night because they were talking about, oh, who's the guy? And I'm mad I don't remember his name. That they were talking about who took a bribe, and that the FBI said there was no reason to go any further with the investigation because there was nothing
Oh, you're
there.
talking
Oh, it was
about
Tom
The ice,
Homan. Tom Homan. Now,
the
and the
ice
problem with and the problem was it wasn't a bribe. And why it wasn't a bribe was simply because he wasn't a government official at the time the money was offered. So in other words, if I come up to you and give you $50,000, I don't care if it's in a plastic bag, a Louis Vuitton bag, or in pennies, you can take it. Now, it's no different than lobbying. But now the question is, did he report it on his taxes? That's another issue. That's some
probably
Al Capone stuff you got to get him on, right? That's some stuff that Trump would be like, oh, y'all trying to get me on this BS, right? So I think that, you know, we can't look for, I mean, like, let's stop being sensational on either side and look for things. It's like somebody could walk up to me and give me a bag of money. I don't have to tell anybody. Now, if I don't report it, then it becomes a tax crime, right? But the fact that the FBI is like, it's nothing, I would say, yeah, because he wasn't a government official. He's a private citizen at that time. So you can't really investigate anybody on that. That's for the IRS to investigate, not the FBI to investigate. So again, whatever, and this is where I think people get that liberal news media, conspiracy stuff from, because this stuff gets thrown out there because they're trying to combat the news that's coming out from quote unquote the right. And for all of you who don't know, I see myself squarely in the middle. I am the moderate of moderates. I believe Obama was a moderate of moderates. Hell, I believe Reagan was a moderate. Not that
eh,
I agree. Not that I
what you
agree.
say?
Hold up. Not that I agree with
wow.
all the Reagan stuff back in the day. I did. Um, and I was too young to even know most of the stuff. But not that I agree with
Yeah.
that. But I think going after people like this is kind of like be careful what you ask for. And I think that's what the James Comey thing is. That's what the thing now. Should you, I mean, if that's the case, they could have got Edgar Hoover on much different stuff, but you don't you don't do that because if Trump can get immunity and he's the president, but if he can get immunity for anything he does in office, then sure as hell the FBI director probably can too. So this is just sensationalism, and it's what Trump does best is he knows how to direct attention off of what he wants to and onto what he wants to.
That's because he's a
Mhm.
brilliant marketer. I'll give him all props all day long. He understands how the public perceives information, and he
I
takes
agree.
full advantage of it, and he's brilliant at it. I will give him that.
I think he learned that at The Apprentice. I think that's what he learned
Well,
at The Apprentice.
he has always manipulated the media. They said back in the 80s, he used to call and disguise himself and plant stories about himself. And he had the National Enquirer in his pocket for a long time. So he always knew how to manipulate the narrative, and he's been doing it a long time, and he is expert. That's his expertise. He's not allegedly he's not a great businessman. There are many people who will document that for you, but I think he is he understands messaging. He is
And manipulating.
yes.
Hmm. Yeah, don't leave that out.
The other thing I thought was interesting was at Charlie Kirk's memorial when they flashed to one of the shots in the booth that Trump was sitting in, and Elon was sitting right next to him. And I was like, oh, so they made up? Or, oh, is this the type of, you would think this is the type of event that would bring people together, that they could settle their differences and see, hey, this is small compared to life and what's going on, and we need to get together. I don't know if that's true. I just thought it was very interesting that they were together conversing.
He's still in power. So there's still
Yeah.
a need to connect. So
Yes.
I mean, it's not, this whole thing is devised of is comprised of people who want to take advantage of the time and the administration and the linkages to wealth and power. That this is what's driving all of this. So
Yeah.
sure, I mean, Elon, you want to talk about welfare queen?
Elon does make a lot of money off the U.S. government.
Just saying.
Makes a lot of money. I forgot what the figure was, but it was like $6 million a day or something like that. Don't quote me on that, because I think it was around that a day off of government contracts. I think that was being threatened by Trump. I think that was part of the issue that they were having, but I think that was also part of the issue why he was, ponying it up to him too and putting $271 million to his campaign. Now, see, that's funny, because they talked about all the money that Kamala was given to try
That's a
to run for
distraction.
president.
That's
And then you got one dude giving $271 million, but we haven't talked about Kamala. And Kamala's book. And
Yeah, I was
Kamala's
just reading
book
about that today.
Kamala's book set some pants on fire.
I have a book. I haven't started reading it yet, but yes.
She's telling her truth.
Yeah. Oh, but to that point, I think back in August, on the way back from California, I listened to Hunter Biden's interview. Very interesting man. Very interesting man. Very, I guess we haven't been exposed to a lot of who he is and what his credentials are, but very interesting gentleman. I think,
Well, he's
huh?
well-traveled,
Well educated.
I was going to say, very educated, likes to have a good time,
Is an attorney.
But has made some questionable decisions, not only for what he puts up his nose, but also some of his dealings across the world and how they may have been connected to Joe, and what did Joe know about.
Yeah.
So
You need to watch it. It's very interesting.
Joe, but
do I need
remember,
to watch it because he's going to put his best face forward. right? Do I really need to watch it? Because I know it's
I
going to
think so.
be
I think,
somewhat positive for him, right?
well, I mean, he was very candid. This was a podcast interview, so it's not like it's, CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, if you will. This was a podcaster. And it was very long. It was 3 hours long, and I watched the whole
Wow.
thing. Yeah. Um, and he's an interesting character. Very, if not for the illicit nature of his dealings, he'd be quite the person to consider um, in the political
And
realm.
look, the family's been through something, right? Like his brother died, right?
Yeah, the sister that
Um,
died, his mother died,
yeah. I mean, so
self
he's
almost.
seeing some trauma, right? And so as Joe, I think we'll never know what Joe's faculties were really. I mean, just like we didn't know the extent of FDR, we didn't know the extent of Reagan's faculties too until years. I mean, we might find out 20 or
We don't
30
know
years
the
from now.
extent of Trump's.
Well, true. True. We
Okay.
don't know why. We don't know why he has a whole, palette of makeup on his hand that looks totally different colors. I'm still trying to understand why he
You
has
said his
such an
hand?
affinity.
His hand?
Oh yeah, and I'm just
His
trying to
hand
figure
is
out
like
why he
so
has.
his hand is so
Yeah,
pale it's the makeup that he puts on. He loves
no, I
the
know,
he
but,
loves the
but why? Why? Because and this why such the orange tinge? Because you're the president. You got access to all the king's men and all the king's horses. Excuse the pun. And you're letting somebody spray tan you to look like I came in with a can and spray tan.
It's not spray tan though.
That's bronzer.
What it,
Because if it was spray tan, it would be on his hands as well. So it's just the makeup tone that he chooses, and that's what he's accustomed to for all these years, and he is not changing. So the clown will keep the
so
clown makeup.
you don't think he's spray tan over his whole
No,
body. You just
no.
think it's his face.
It's a bronzer.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not
You
You know
educated with
your
spray
wife
tans.
knows, Jamie.
To that point, as you get older, your complexion changes. So you need to change up your foundation numbers.
Your tones and
Yes,
everything.
you
Yes,
have to
absolutely.
reevaluate your tones. Uh,
Absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
Joe must have had a good makeup person there because we couldn't
he
tell
did.
if he had makeup not. He must have had
Well,
a good
he had an
makeup person.
in-house
Obama too.
plastic surgeon. So, and through his daughter, his son-in-law, it was
Well,
plastic.
we could tell. We could see the Botox was on fire a lot for Joe.
Yeah. What
Because
was
Joe
he?
always had that fireman
What
Joe.
was it?
He always had that expression on his face, kind of like Fireman Bill
Yeah,
from
Fireman
In
Bill.
Living
Yeah,
Color.
yeah, yeah,
From Living
yeah,
Color.
yeah.
So
So
yeah.
if I could, and Jamie, I know that you probably have something you want to talk about, but I wanted to bring up a subject about you and one of our employees. Um, so one of the employees called out and not called out, he said he had to leave. So dispatch called us and said that, so and so had to leave. So of course Jamie picks up the phone. I was like, man, we already had this discussion. He says, oh, I didn't, he said something about I didn't take a break or something. I can't remember, and you can interject whenever. But I just want to say that I think that listening to this young man talk and how you were able to just get him to open up to you and get him to express the depression and the anxiety and what life has really thrown at him. You talking to him and just hearing this young man and Jamie, like hearing him giggle and cry at the same time. I was like, wow, he's hurting.
Mm,
Now, I see this young man walk into our place of business every once in a while when I'm there, and I can see the stress on him. I can see the sadness. I can see almost like the anxiety, like he doesn't want to be there. And when he said to Jamie, every time he walks in, basically says, he screams, fuck, why do I have to come here? Not because he doesn't love his job, but because he doesn't love the position that he's in his life. He's what, 21, 22, Jamie? And he
Yeah,
thinks
he's
that this
20.
is
He's
he
22.
thinks that this is end of the world. And I said to Jamie while he was on the phone with him, I said, I hear, again, he says he goes to work, he goes home. That's it. He doesn't talk to anybody. He's lonely. How did our how did our adolescents get to this point where they're not socializing with anyone? It's just the social media that is kind of bringing them down, making them more depressed and more isolated from society, and making them those people that, sorry to say, end up being the shooters of a school or a business or something like that. How do we get these people to get out of the mindset that they're not alone, that there are people that are willing to talk to them and listen to what their hurts and their pains are?
It's a fascinating thing for me to hear you say that he said that, why does he have to be here? And he's 21 years old. We all had to start somewhere. I didn't have the job that I have now when I was 21 years old.
Yeah.
And that's why in a lot of ways I can say I would not want to be in my 20s again. I'm sure I was probably the cutest ever I've ever
Right.
been in my career, my life, but
Right.
in terms of who I was, what was ahead of me, all of that, no, I like this stage of my life, and unfortunately, there's no communication to kids now that there's a process because I guess everybody online is, making millions of dollars by simply being on TikTok and dancing and having, tens of millions of followers. That's just not reality. So I don't
Well,
know.
look, there are people online who will say exactly what you're saying. The problem is there aren't enough people online saying exactly what you're saying. So look, let's off this rip.
Yeah.
And it's great that people talk about it. What I heard from the young man was his frustration with where he is, but yet I know some of his background, so I could speak to him and help him realize that he was taking the right steps to try to find out what he wanted to do in his life. And there's why you have this idea at 22 that you're supposed to know exactly what you want to do in life.
Yeah.
I said, dude, I don't know what I want to do in life now. And I'm well into
Right.
6 decades, right? So it doesn't work like that. And sometimes you go through phases where you're doing different things in life, just like now. If you told me I'd be doing this right now today, I would have done it 20 years ago. I'm like, wow, I got what I got. I got what I got going on. But
10 years
you
ago.
move. It was interesting. Yesterday,
Exactly.
another, when you sit down and you don't want to think about things, you watch these senseless TV. So we're watching one of our other favorite shows, Hell's Kitchen.
Oh.
And Chef Ramsay said something very interesting, right? So one of the contestants asked him, like, what did you do? I mean, how did you figure out what you wanted to do? What was your first job? What would you tell us? What did you know? What do you know now that you didn't know then? And he said right off the bat, he said, look, don't take a job for money, take it for the experience. The money will come, but you got to learn. It's kind of like that Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yeah. And see, that's the problem that the young man, I think it's part of the problem the young man was having that works for us is he don't want to, this is not where he wants to end up. He doesn't want to be this for the rest of his life. And he's frustrated with it because he had to take it for the money to be able to survive. I get that. But at the same time, I said, but I was trying to explain to him, don't get so blinded in what you're doing right now because there are resources that you have available that you're not even using that are right in front of you, that some we provide, some that are out there. But he was doing other things. He just got frustrated working and doing what he wanted to do passionately, and he wasn't being recognized for it by the people that he was working for to do it. I'm not going to get into details because, of course, I don't want to,
Yeah.
if anybody's listening, they find out who this person is. I don't want them to know that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But this person doesn't even realize that they're doing the things that they need to do to move forward. It's like I had a mentor tell me one time, we were talking about stories and, we were talking about business development and really telling a sales pitch. And at the end of the day, he's like, Jamie, every story is an inch. Those stories, inches make up a foot. That foot eventually makes up a mile, but you got to just continue to tell the story so it comes to fruition. So it's not it's not, I'm using all these analogies. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Of course, we realize that in life, but what you want it to be is a marathon. You don't want to do
Yeah.
you want to sprint. You're not going to be
Yeah,
standing here too long.
absolutely.
That's part of the
Right?
story, but also we must acknowledge that there are people who get the sprint. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
and those are either exceptionally talented people or they're exceptionally lucky people. That's not the majority of the people. The rest of us have to sort of find our way, navigate our way. There's some kids that came out of the womb knowing they wanted to be an attorney or a doctor, and that's, from the time they were 3 years old, they knew that's what they were going to do, and they
But
do it.
that's what they saw. It was learned behavior.
It
It
is
was learned
learned.
behavior,
Absolutely.
right?
It's coached behavior, and it's supported by parents who put their kids into a certain school or cohort group or whatever the case may be. Even with that, some people still get to the point and say, "Hey, I don't want to do that," and it's okay because life is. I- i- If you're lucky, you get to be older and have different experiences and build on those experiences and take advantage of those experiences. And I don't think that's being talked about enough because people think they can just, you know, be a
But
millionaire
it's
and
it's
at Louis Vuitton
I
every
agree. I
and
agree
it,
with
it's
you.
it's
dream.
different though. So if you looked at Mark Zuckerberg and you looked at Jeff Bezos, most people are like, oh, they had this print. I don't know about that for Bezos
He
because
won't.
he started out in his garage, right?
He won't.
And I don't necessarily know that from Mark Zuckerberg because, if you can believe the movie, and by the way, they're coming out with another movie, the sequel to that
Uh,
movie that was about Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and Meta. I don't know if his was a sprint either, based on the story, right? There's so many things that have to happen. So, but you might have sprinted to that initial success. But then the marathon is where do you take the rest of it to? Like, there's no way either one of them could have thought like Amazon, what it was then, and Facebook, what it was then, is not what it is right now. And there could have been many things in the way, but to get where they were today, no matter how privileged, no matter how much resources they had, it was a marathon to get there. So the sprint, I think the sprint got more pub because of social media and it's out there. But the people who are really grinding, they're not telling their story on social media. They're because they're too busy grinding, unless their grind is social media. And then that's great. I don't think Jake Paul and his brother aren't grinding and aren't running a marathon. It may look like it's a sprint because that's what they want you to know. But them boys been busting their butts to get where they had to get to,
I mean,
you
all you have
know.
to do
And
is
we
watch Shark Tank. I mean, to understand that,
Ah, love that show.
it's a great show. I love it.
I never got to that show, but I got the
Love it.
concept, right?
Love it.
I get the concept. So no, I mean the young man was hurting and he was frustrated, and what he was mostly saying is he doesn't know why he's thinking like this. I can't believe I'm thinking like this. Like he was upset
Yes,
at himself that he was thinking. He was so angry.
he
Um,
was. Sad.
At the same time, I was congratulating him for recognizing what he was recognizing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beginning, right? It's like they always say, you can't start to solve a problem until you understand what the problem is, and it starts with you. He understood it starts with him. This is all right. Now, what do we do about it? Right. And I was just like, pick up the phone and call me, not about work. You can pick up the phone and call me just to talk things out. It doesn't have to have anything to do with, you being at work, not being at work, or accomplishing your
But he
goals.
needed that.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying to you, and that's why I brought this subject up, because he needed that, because he doesn't have anybody to talk to. Despite that he may never call you and say, "Yo, Jamie, I'm having this meltdown again." He needed to know that somebody was willing to listen to him and that he did have an outlet for somebody to talk to. Now, you also mentioned, look, there's other resources that we can offer you to help you get through this. Let me know. We can look into it. And that's the problem, is that most people don't want to look for help. They're just looking for somebody that they may have next to them that's willing to just listen and for them to get it
If
off their chest.
Or they
it's
may
not a learned behavior.
across somebody who will take them down a wrong path because I get the sense that this person can be saved. What you don't want is somebody to get in there and start going,
Yeah.
well, the reason why I'm not successful right now is because that brown person, that black person, that yellow person, whatever, and and go down another path of darkness that has
Yes.
nothing to do
But
with why they're experiencing life the way they are.
asking for help is a learned behavior, just like we talked about earlier. And for men, it's usually not a learned behavior. So what I
Mhm.
also heard from him is he thought his exact words were that I feel like I'm such a pussy because I feel this
He
way.
did
And,
say
and
that.
no, I don't want to talk to somebody. It's like, no, you're not. It's okay. So coming to grips with these feelings as a man, and I mean, I applaud him for discussing them at such a young age, because I got to tell you, I had it to a certain degree, some of those same feelings when I was young and trying to figure out,
Hmm.
all right, why am I not being successful where I want to be? Or why, or even as you get older, 30 and 40, and like, why am I, because you have a tendency to compare yourself to people. Because if you're competitive, you're like, all right, I know I'm talented. I know I can do this. Why am I not where or I look to this person to gauge myself. We all do that in some way, shape, or form, whether we want to
Hmm.
admit it or not. And that can kind of get consuming. And you have to break that spiral. But then with social media, it becomes amplified because you don't even know these people that you compare yourself to. Because all you see
Yes.
is these people wilding and having a good time. You're like, well, where's my good time? Why am I stuck in the house? Why am I not socializing? And that's the thing. It's like, get out there and you got to force yourself to pick up the phone and talk to people, or force yourself to go out in the community and engage. And I think that's one of the things that is much harder for people to do now, because not only because of social media, but because what happened
But
with
COVID,
COVID,
COVID, COVID.
those things.
Well,
But yeah, it's
Yep.
tough.
I
Yeah.
argue that it's been brewing since beyond COVID. There's a professor, I believe he's a professor of economics and at Pepperdine, that is frequently seen with Kara Swisher on a podcast. But he's been on Bill Maher's show before, the bald-headed guy with the glasses, talking about we really need to be focused on how males are, you know, being socialized right now. They're not going out on dates. They're spending their time on gaming and social media. And they need to be a little bit more disciplined with their approach, because we're losing a generation of men who know what to do with their lives.
Hmm.
And he said that there's, from a culture standpoint, um, women have many more outlets now. Like, more of us are getting into college and education, and we're ascending in job spaces.
So, well,
Uh,
that's because you guys are having a renaissance that you should have had 30 or 40 years ago.
right, but I would argue that's not coming. I don't think it was designed to be at the expense of men. I think it was,
No,
but it seems like we're young men are not being socialized to have an awareness of what it takes to be successful. And
And I and
uh,
I also and I also believe that the social media is making men think um that they can't find a young lady or a woman that is not just looking for, the fancy cars and the expensive bags and all those things. So their self-esteem is, if they're not successful and they're not in a place of being able to provide and do the things that social media is showing that these successful men are able to do, that they feel like they don't have a chance because they can't give these young girls what is all over social media. You want the fancy car, you want the nice house, you want the all of these things, that the glitz and glamour. But in all reality, I think that people need to realize that those are materialistic things. You can find a partner that maybe is not able to give you everything that you want, but if they are that partner, you guys can build the wants together. And I think that that's an
but
important part for the young people to. Huh?
it's deeper than that too.
Huh?
I mean, that is there. That's there. And I think that that's definitely there. But I think it's deeper than that because, and we talked about this a long time ago,
Uh,
that men, no, no, like when I said that female renaissance that has taken so long to come, that continues to be, women have understood now their value, right? Not only as a person, but in the business world, in this capitalist society. But again, America's will be hard pressed to have a female leader for many different reasons. But at the same time, they continue to ascend, like Troy talked about. One thing that hasn't happened is, as generations move forward, are the men being taught and indoctrinated on how to deal with the feeling that they don't have to be the provider. They can be a provider. They don't have to be the um, foundation. They don't have to be the rock. They can be a rock. They can be part of the foundation, but they've always been taught since the time that we knocked women over the head and drug them back to the cave that that's the way we go out and provide. We hunt, we shoot, and then you sit back and you have all the babies. Now that's not happening. Now you make just as much money as I make. Now you can do the same things that I used to be able to come home and tell you about. Now I don't spend half the day away from you and you don't talk to me until I come home because there's instant contact and all these things. So I know exactly what you're doing, how you do it. There's no mystery to what a man is anymore. We know what that is. But the fact is, we women have been able to evolve, but men haven't been able to evolve in that place. And that's where we have a hard time fitting in. I'm not, I mean, I was fortunate enough that we had parents that prepared us for that, but also had other role models that prepared for that too. But that's where it is. It's like, where's my value? And hey, look, if you can buy your own car, buy your own, I want somebody to do that for me too. Everybody wants it a little bit easier, but at the same time, you're not comfortable. Men are not comfortable with the emotional intelligence that they need to bring to the table, the amount of it. It's not just, I can go to work, come home, say, hey, where's my food? And I get it. If you're in that setup, that traditional setup is great, but it can be flipped too. The woman can be in that situation and you can appreciate that she's out there earning being the breadwinner, and you provide her with a home as a castle and come home to something that is very comforting and tranquility. We haven't been taught that, and we haven't caught up.
Yeah. The gentleman's name is Professor Scott Galloway. He is a professor of marketing at UC Berkeley. And he believes that part of how boys have been raised in the past 20 years or so, with the when they have contests, everybody gets a participation award, or people aren't held accountable for their actions. They're just, excuses are made, stuff like that has contributed to this thing of uh, people not ha- being able to work through to the other side of things, to work through hard times, to build value and esteem around figuring things out, because the way that people have been raised have been to make this smooth and easy kind of situation, which has not really benefited boys because, part of what you were saying, Jamie, about a lot of what is macho and male in this country is to go out and slay and bring it home and take care of and all that kind of stuff. But when you don't have the ability to figure things out on your own, that probably creates a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And then the kids go home and, they're able to go back home these days because things are very expensive. And if you don't have a high paying job, then, it kind of creates this cascade of challenges where they just kind of give up and don't go out on dates and because they can't afford it. They, they're just not in the whole social um, contract, if you will, with how things are because they can't participate because they just don't have the fortitude or the structure to get there. It's kind of interesting, but women have a lot of outlets for that. We go out, we do things that support each other in a way. Would argue that too. Um, and then a lot of the time we have to figure things out because we're left alone to figure it out.
Yeah.
I met up with someone recently that I met that um, was a single mother for the entirety of raising her child. And she got her child through college. She herself went through college and got a master's degree and is gainfully employed. Um, these things, I mean, she had to figure it out. And nothing like figuring something out when you have to have another mouth to feed to get you through to the other side. So you have to figure it out. So um I just don't understand why men today don't have those same instincts. It's
Because
interesting.
Because we,
they weren't built, they were built
well,
different than us.
think about that. When y'all were sitting at home and y'all were being patriarchs of the family and being mothers and nurturing, where
Matriarch.
were we? Matriarch, excuse me. Where were we? At work. And who was at
Mhm.
work? Other men like us. Maybe a couple women, you know, out there, sprinkled out there. So that was our social
It's
network.
like all the
Yes, that was our social and wives at work, and that was our social network. But let me jump in one thing because I think we hate too much on video games because people go, oh, you sit at home playing video. Look, the video gamers make up to $1 million a year professionally. The
yeah,
average video
that's
gamer
the
makes
reports.
anywhere from $30,000 to $126,000 a year. I think that gets you well above the poverty level and gets you into a pretty good place if you're making six figures. So I wish video games would have came along much sooner. I'd rather be making money playing video games and being good than sitting doing other things. But people hate on video games like there's money to be made.
Yeah.
And it's not really the video games, it's the lack of interaction. But if they get interaction on video games, right? They get interaction on team video games. So I don't want to hate on
Well, they're
video
not
games. I
like
think it's
it's
the
about understanding competition. And if you've never been held accountable to, or if you never learned how to win or lose, and with any kind of humility, then maybe you don't pursue even video games because you don't understand the culture around it.
Mhm.
that's right.
Yeah.
But it's fact. The I still believe all these things are true, as all these things can be true. But I say at the end of the day, there was a movement for women. There wasn't a movement for men because men had too much pride and too much like we continue to be the most important cog in the system here in the business world and the capitalism and those things passed us because the environment changed and
Mhm.
that tech environment changed and then you're like it's kind of weird like you see people making $300,000-$400,000 being unhappy. Well, they're unhappy because they're sitting in front of a computer screen all day, no windows, and all they're doing is coding, no time off. They don't leave their office. The company brings in food because all they want them to sit there and do is code, code, code. And then it's a race, right? Because time is so important in technology. It's all AI race. It's why you think Meta's paying, coders for AI $1 million and poaching people from other companies because it's the race. But then you get that, and it's like, is that really what you thought it was? No, because again, you're missing that social connection. And then when that goes awry, then a lot of other things
Yeah.
start to go under as well. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. We have had a plethora of interesting topics today. I thought this was a very good discussion. I would like to send it to you, Troy, and you, Monique, to end with your thoughts on this week.
Go
Hmm.
ahead, Troy.
That's on the week. Uh, I I think this is going to be a general thought on the way the things are going in the world. And I swing back and forth quite often throughout weeks where I say, I need to find somewhere else to be. And then, no, I'm going to live locally and focus on the things that make me happy and give me joy when I'm not working. And that's not to say that my work doesn't bring me joy because it does in a lot of instances. And I think that's why I continue to work in the industry that I do. But yeah, I'd say, you got to keep your eye focused because there's a lot that's designed to make us fearful and question and not know what the truth is. So throughout the chaos, I think you have to live locally, um, rely on friends and families that the family that you trust, that people with intelligence and know-how to help you through, um, and just have a very balanced view of what you're hearing and looking at because we're being manipulated. and
Yeah.
you need to be wise and not live fearfully, because I think that's when you lose the plot.
That couldn't have been said any better, Troy.
Thank you.
I'm going to say this. The only thing I'm going to say is focus on improving and not proving. I think that having a family and understanding what's happening in the world today is just really understanding everybody's perspective and what they're thinking and how they're feeling with what's going on. So I think for me, I want to improve on myself. I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone, but just kind of just sticking together and trying to get everybody's understanding and perspective on what their vision is and where they see things going. Um, I know that for me, it's very important that I keep my family close and keep my enemies even closer. So with that being said, that's my thought for the end of this session.
Okay. I would say, look, all visionaries, I believe, do one thing very well. They are where their feet are. They understand where they are today, and they have to understand that to be able to understand how they can accomplish their vision. And I think that's what makes most visionaries great, because they really do focus that word on where they're standing at today and what that means at the moment, because that's the most important thing on how they're going to get to their vision and understanding the environment. That's what I'll leave with. It's been a great show. Troy, thank you again for being our inaugural guest
Thank you.
on episode 10, where we can't be halfway there because, as I said in the first episode, there's this magic number of 21 episodes you have to get to before your podcast supposedly gains traction. It's official. We're 49% of the way there, but on our 11th, we'll be well over 50%. So we're almost at the peak, and now it's about to get downhill and go easy. So thank you for those of you who have listened. Thank you for those who have comments. Continue to do it. We'll continue to do this on a weekly basis. And if you like us, tell us. If you don't, that's fine too. We take all feedback. Tell us if you think we're wrong. I'm not like Stephen A. Smith. I do think I'm wrong a lot of the time. I'm not going to tell you I'm right most of the time. So that's all right. These are my thoughts, and hopefully they don't offend. But if they do, let's talk about it. And also to my podcast partner and wife and best friend, thank you for being on the show today, as we usually do. So everybody, see you on episode 11.
Love you guys.
Let's go. Welcome to the main event. Applying pressure, but I promise I ain't make it then. In their heads, living free, I ain't paying rent. Wake up in the AM, making G's like Mercedes Benz. Whoa, yeah, please don't take offense. It isn't